Hello, welcome to the Royal Rota. It's your weekly bout of news and analysis of all things royal and all the places we've been and haven't been or might have been this week. Hello, Lizzie, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. We've been out and about a bit this week, haven't we, with members of the...
Literally just got back from
We have literally just got back, and we went to Twickenham this week for a very fun engagement with the Duchess of Cambridge. So, yes, been busy.
That was good, wasn't it? I thought that she was on form. She was actually on form today as well, and we are, as we record this, we're 2 or 3 days away from a very historic moment.
Yes.
Not just for the royals, but for this country, for the constitutional history of the United Kingdom.
Yes, the first time a British monarch will have ever been on the throne for 70 years. So Sunday, the 6th of February, marks the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, her accession day. Which she took the throne on the 6th of February 1952.
Didn't we say last week, it was kind of like, we're talking about the Jubilee as something that's happening later in the year, but it's happening on Sunday. Jubilee Day, as in Moment of History Day, is Sunday, the 6th of February, because that's the day King George VI, or the night. He passed away during the night, wasn't it? And it was in the morning of the February the 6th that he was found to be no longer with us.
Yeah, and she was obviously in Kenya and had to stop short her trip there to fly back, and when she returned,
I think you're going to see that lots of weekend. The Queen at Treetops, Kenya, left as Princess Elizabeth, came back as Queen, blah, blah, blah.
But as usual, she is spending the moment at Sandringham, which is where her father, King George VI, passed away, and it is normally a quiet, reflective moment for her. It's quite a poignant moment. So the big celebrations, they will come later in the year. But as we said, I think last week, I think we would expect to see something over the weekend to mark the moment.
Exactly, because it's not a normal accession day. It is a historic moment. So our understanding is there will be events, things that we won't bring you in this podcast, but we will bring you in subsequent ones when we are allowed to tell you about things which may or may not be happening at Sandringham. Should we talk about something that definitely did happen? I mean, because we could go down the route of, well, we've got Harry and Meghan to talk about in terms of Spotify and their slight issues with that platform.
Yep.
We've got. I've got something written down here, and I'm just going to take me a while to decipher what I've written. So why don't you tell us what else we've got, and I'm going to try and work out.
I'm just intrigued what you're going to come out with when you decipher whatever it is.
So I've got 3 royals. So that was obviously Charles,
that's today,
Camilla, and Kate. I've got Kate Rugby. I've got Spotify. I've got Chogham, and we think something in the Caribbean, which we can discuss.
Yep.
I've got accession, and I've got another word. I've got another word, and I can't make out what it is. I think it ends in K.
This is a super story.
And I think begins in... Oh, I know what it is.
Crockery.
Yes, I've written crock. C-R-O-C-K.
Okay.
Well, it kind of... I don't know. You can see that. Crockery. That's
crockery. This is a super story.
The lovely jubbly story, isn't it?
The lovely jubbly story. Yeah, we'll finish with that. That'll be our and finally.
Okay. So let's start with... I think we start with Twickenham, don't we?
Let's start with Twickenham.
Wasn't it a good event to be inside the massive stadium? If you're not a fan of rugby, or maybe you don't live in this country, Twickenham Stadium is the home of English Rugby Union, because there's also Rugby League.
Yep.
And we were there yesterday, 82,000 seater stadium. There's only about 10 of us in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And Kate.
And Kate, yes. So Kate
Catherine, as I keep getting told on Twitter. Her name is Catherine, not Kate.
Catherine was there because she has 2 new patronages.
How do you call her?
What would I call her? Kate.
Kate.
If it's
You get told off on Twitter as well for calling her Kate.
I've turned off all my comments and notifications, so I have no idea.
So these people can't annoy you.
I'll occasionally dip in and see some.
We're on the same page when we're talking about Kate.
It's Kate, yeah.
Kate. What do you mean, Kate?
Yeah, and actually, I know the newspapers often call her Kate Middleton. It's because it's what is on their online copy. They call her Kate Middleton because that's what is searched for on Google. You know, in their newspaper
weird, isn't
print.
It? Because that hasn't been her name for
10 years.
10 years, isn't it? So
11 years. Yeah.
But yet Diana still got called Diana Spencer, didn't she? For quite a while. So.
Yeah.
You know, or Lady Di actually is the name that people still look for. We never call her Kate Middleton, I have to say.
No, we don't. It is just what is searched online.
Glaring error. But we do say Kate, because I think if you ask anyone I don't know why I'm talking about this, I just had this, you know what, I woke up this morning and replied to someone, because they said, I think you mean Catherine, and I replied, well, also commonly known as Kate. Anyway,
Anyway, she has 2 new patronages, doesn't
Twitter
she?
winds me up. Shock.
Let's reroute
Oh my,
to
come off Twitter. It's such a horrible
to
platform.
Kate's new patronages. Yes, 2 new ones.
Mm-hmm.
The Rugby Football Union and the Rugby Football League.
And the difference is?
I think you're much more qualified
Well, you know
to
what?
talk about
There's
the
almost a
difference.
class thing. Well, one's kind of sort of posh, middle class and southern, and the other's definitely much more northern. Like the Rugby League, we've got the Rugby League World Cup coming up after a delay in October, and we were looking at the stadia for that, and it was like Leeds and Hull and Newcastle and everywhere up north, and Old Trafford, Manchester. And Rugby Union is often seen as a game of the middle classes in the south. But she is patron of both.
She is now patron of both. And there's 2 interesting things about this appointment. She's been given the patronages by the Queen, but they formerly belonged to Prince Harry. And Prince Harry was stripped of these patronages when he confirmed that he would not be returning to the UK as a working member of the royal family. So February 2021, he gave them back.
So along with Captain General of the Royal Marines,
Yep.
the Queen basically said, you ain't having those, matey, when he went off to America.
Yeah.
Just in the way that Prince Andrew's been stripped of a fair few things as well. Actually, no Prince Andrew news this week.
No.
I digress slightly.
No
Developments on Prince Andrew. But yes, Prince Harry used to be the patron of English Rugby Union and Rugby League. And actually, one of the final events, cue picture, of Prince Harry was at Buckingham Palace when he
did the draw for the Rugby Football League.
World Cup, and that was one of his final engagements.
Yeah, that
before he
was.
went off to America.
So that was 2020.
2020, wasn't
but
it?
they sort of they didn't lose the royal patronages until they confirmed last February that they would not be returning, and that's when the announcement happened that they were being stripped of the patronages.
Yes, and these are the first of Harry's to be handed out, because actually of all the other things that he's got, for example, the Royal Marines don't currently have a Captain General because Harry had it and doesn't anymore. And these are the first of Harry's patronages to be handed out, and there was some newspaper rivalry about who broke this story first, wasn't there?
Yeah, so the Sunday Times first reported this last year, that it was anticipated that Kate would take on these patronages. And I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, Kate is known...
There aren't that many people left in the
There
royal
aren't that
family
many, but
to
Kate
hand them
is
to.
known to be a keen sportswoman.
Yeah.
She has a love of sailing, hockey, tennis. She's patron of other sporting... she has other sporting patronages, so this sort of fits in with the kind of thing that she is interested in.
You did the tennis thing with her, didn't you? When
I
she went
did
to see
at
Emma
the
Raducanu.
LTA, yes.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Duchess is that she is very naturally sporty. She's got good hand-eye coordination. She was amazing watching her play Emma Raducanu.
So therefore, she was in the lineup. We had the images, which if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing now. If you're not watching on YouTube, as I say every week, you can see all these pictures on our Instagram page, ITV News Royals, and I knew they're there because I uploaded them myself, unlike the other week when we referred to something that wasn't
wasn't even up.
But yes, she was in the lineup. She scored a try, but kind of didn't score a try. Explain.
Again, I'm going to defer to you on
the fact that
rules.
her hand was not in contact with the ball when it hit the ground, because the ball had left her hand before it hit the ground. And I think you said that some people on the aforementioned social media platform known as Twitter, well, nobody's picky or anything.
They were screen grabbing. I'm like, oh, not quite.
There's a bit of gap, isn't there, between Kate's
gap,
hand and the ball before it hits the ground, and therefore that would be ruled as not a try.
Not a try. But fair play to her. I mean, she
Well,
really
on the basis
got...
that this wasn't a competitive game,
Yeah,
we'll let her have it.
She really did get stuck in, and she could have easily come to Twickenham yesterday, met people, said hello, and left again. And actually, the fact that she, wanted to join in, I thought fair play to her.
It is the difference between what makes a really good royal engagement and what doesn't, because so often you can rock up at things, not get involved, stand there and chat and walk away again. You might get the odd picture, but it actually was a good picture.
Great picture.
Both televisual and stills, wasn't it?
Yeah, her in the line out, that picture made a lot of the front pages.
Didn't she do some sort of scrum practice?
She was doing some scrums.
Yep. There was a drop kick.
Yep.
There was a try/not try.
Yep. And
women and men's game as well.
Yeah, and actually I spoke to the women's captain, Sarah Hunter, afterwards, and she was saying how great it is to have the Duchess of Cambridge as a female, because she's, she can promote women's sport and the women's game, and is sort of a great advocate for community and grassroots, so they really want to encourage people through. And by getting involved yesterday and by being on the front page of every paper, she has highlighted the sport and the platform, and that's what makes a good patron, I think.
The advocacy work she does, especially for women and where we want to take the women's game, I think having a female at the head of it is brilliant for the game.
Now, of course, as we've just been discussing, Kate is the patron of the English rugby, both league and union. Who is the patron of Welsh rugby?
Prince William.
Who is Kate's or Catherine's
husband.
Right.
And we know that the Cambridges have, a sporting rivalry. We've seen them compete against each other before, and they have quite a lot of fun with it. And this really does set up a new rivalry in the Cambridge household.
And quite soon as well, because actually the Six Nations tournament gets underway this weekend. England are actually playing Scotland at Murrayfield. But the England-Wales game is happening on February the 26th at where?
At Twickenham.
At Twickenham, where we were. Now, in Twickenham, there are these we were looking at the seats, weren't we? There are these places where the royals tend to sit. You might say royal box. It's not really a box, but it's some posher-looking seats in the stand. Now, it rather suggests that if William is patron of the Welsh team and Kate's patron of the English team, that they will both turn up at this event. Right. I don't know, but you kind of assume that might happen.
But she did say, we spoke to Jamie George from the England men's team, and he was saying, Kate was saying to them that there is rivalry between them and that they were really going to have to
do on the 26th?
Get their heads together for this game because she wants the bragging rights.
We did ask how that was going to go down in the house. Apparently they're very competitive, that's what she was saying. So she said we needed to make sure we get our heads on for that game, otherwise she wants the bragging rights in the house. So it's going to be an interesting one when we play Wales.
So she wants the bragging rights in the house, yes. So that's going to be quite an interesting 80 minutes, isn't it, when in the Royal Box, if they are going to be in the Royal Box, which we rather suspect they might well be. Now, what's George going to do? Because he's got Dad who's supporting Wales, and George himself, just like William, is a future Prince of Wales, because that's as you all know, I'm sure, because you watch his podcast, you know your royal stuff. That is the historic name given to the heir to the throne, or the Crown Prince, as it's known in other countries. So if William and George are going to be future Princes of Wales, what is Kate's going to be a future Princess of Wales, and yet she's going to be supporting Team England?
Well, they have to divide up the nations. But she did talk about the children a little bit on the engagement yesterday. She was saying that the kids all enjoy playing. She was given some mini kits for them, and she was saying she described Louis as a kamikaze, and she said that she's going to be worried about him when he gets older because he's just going to be stuck in the middle of everything. He's going to really kind of get involved.
Well, maybe I don't know where he's going to play on the team, but it looks like George is going to be quite a ferocious rugby player. And
Louis,
we don't know who he's going to. Oh, Louis, sorry.
Louis.
Oh, Louis.
Louis the kamikaze.
Right. Louis kamikaze, and let's see where George is going to play. So there we are. So
we haven't spoken about. Her video and her.
Oh, okay.
We can the promo video.
Why don't we play you the video then? Now, this was put up on the Kensington Palace social media feed, wasn't it? About 7 o'clock in the morning on the day that they announced these new patronages, and turns out Kate's, well, as we know from seeing her with our own eyes at Twickenham Stadium, but she's quite good with the rugby ball. So we can segue quite neatly from Kate being on her own at an event to her getting Harry's patronages. And Harry and Meghan have been making some waves today about Spotify.
Been making waves, yes, they have.
So Spotify. Now, what's the background of the Spotify story? Basically, let's go right back to the beginning, not the beginning of time, but the beginning of Harry and Meghan's
I was going to say, how long's this podcast?
With Spotify, which is essentially that, hey, we wanted to be financially independent. oh, we found a nice deal with Netflix. Oh, we've also found a nice deal with Spotify. Oh, we've produced one podcast for you thus far at the very beginning and nothing since. And I think one of the things actually we didn't talk about a couple of weeks ago was that there was a job advert, wasn't there, for the company that produces content for Spotify to say, we want you to work with Archewell, Harry and Meghan's foundation or company, whatever you call it. And what that kind of suggests this Spotify deal that they got quite a lot of money for, 18 million?
18 million
dollars or pounds? 18 million pounds.
Yeah, they signed in late 2020. As you say, they've so far produced one. It was a holiday special, wasn't it, where they got lots of their famous friends along. And other than that...
So what date did you say? December?
They signed in 2020.
2020, right. And we're now 2022, am I right in thinking?
2022, and we've had one episode.
Right. So that's in 13 or 14 months.
Yeah.
They've done one episode. Now, for 18 million quid, I'd say that was quite a good deal.
So it was a great deal, yeah. Where do we sign up?
Yeah.
I mean...
What, you get 18 million pounds per podcast?
Yeah, I think it was only about
half an hour. Has anyone told ITV about this?
Yeah, we should start cashing in.
If only we could. So 18 million pounds per podcast. They've done one, and now they've put out a statement to say they ain't so happy with Spotify. Although I should point out they're still taking their money.
Yes.
Right.
So this comes after various artists have boycotted Spotify.
Withdrawn their music from
Withdrawn their music, and that is due to controversial content such as the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which has been known to air vaccine sceptical views.
Which is completely at odds with what Harry and Meghan were doing with their sort of vaccine campaign earlier in the year, and that massive weekend they had when they all got involved, and they go somewhere. Was it New York? Didn't know on that.
They did the Global Citizen concert, didn't they?
So completely at odds. But then this is a land of free speech. You don't have to agree with everything on the Spotify platform. In fact, you can get this podcast on the Spotify platform, and I'm sure there's things that we've said about Harry and Meghan that they're not particularly happy with either. But isn't that the idea of free speech? Isn't that what social media is about? Isn't that what the sort of pluralism in media is about?
Well, they ain't happy.
Okay, so what did they say?
So there was a statement. I won't read it all, but I'll give you the...
It was quite a long statement.
It was quite a long statement, so I'll...
Landed in my inbox on a Sunday, which I was rather aggrieved about.
Yeah, as usual, we get statements from them at the weekend.
Harry and Meghan for giving us some work to do on a Sunday.
So they said that last April, our co-founders, Harry and Meghan, began expressing concerns to our partners at Spotify about the all too real consequences of COVID-19 misinformation on its platform. We have continued to express our concerns to Spotify to ensure changes to its platform are made to help address this public health crisis. We look to Spotify to meet this moment and are committed to continuing our work together as it does.
Question then, what if Spotify doesn't meet the moment?
Well, they have. Subsequently, they have met the moment, and they have done something, whether it meets the moment in Harry and Meghan's eyes. They have now said that anything that discusses coronavirus will come with a
warning
message. Right. Warning, yeah.
To say some of this stuff might not be factually correct, but we're still going to air it in any case, kind of thing. So
or
Harry and Meghan,
views,
I mean, I raised that quote there, continued to express our concerns, but I could sort of finish the sentence, but continue to take your money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a commercial deal. They are commercial. They're not in the royal family anymore. So we can talk about how they get their money, and one of the ways they get their money is through 18 million pounds from Spotify.
Yeah.
There we go. We wait for some content from Archewell on the Spotify platform, but in the meantime, if you're on Spotify, you can always type in this thing called ITV Royal Rota.
Yeah.
And this podcast.
And here you'll find us.
Hey.
100 odd episodes of us.
100 odd episodes at literally like 50 pence per episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're not getting 18 million.
Exactly. I wish I did. Right, so how do we segue from Spotify? I'm looking for something to segue to. No, I can't actually.
Okay.
We can go from Harry and Meghan to Harry's father, Prince Charles, and his stepmother, Camilla, and his sister-in-law, Kate.
Okay.
They went to East London.
Yes.
A trio of them.
The trio, a rare...
Trio of royals.
Rare joint engagement. In fact, I was trying to work out if I could remember a time when just the three of them, Kate and the parents-in-law, had been on an engagement together.
I can't even really think of a time when Charles, Camilla, and William have been on.
Yes, they did
together,
they did do one. The military vets. Do you remember we went?
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
Where was it?
Oh gosh, good
Somewhere.
question. I can't remember where it was.
There we go. This podcast is fascinating. Things that I can't remember and locations that Lizzie can remember. So, but we can't think of a time when you've had Prince of Wales, Duchess of Cornwall, Duchess of
Just the
Cambridge.
three. Obviously, they've done things. We've had the Queen.
Day out with the in-laws, wasn't it, for Kate? Let's go out
Yeah.
with the in-laws for the day and leave William at home with the kids.
And it was an invitation that was extended personally from the Prince of Wales to the Duchess of Cambridge because it was all to do with arts, and we know that the Duchess of Cambridge has sort of a keen passion for the arts. So
As does the Prince of Wales.
As does Prince of Wales, yeah. They have a joint bond over it.
So this is them. Again, some video here, but you'll find this video on our social media platforms. I think I stuck something on Twitter, didn't I? Some video today. Chris Ship ITV on Twitter.
There we go, the plug.
The plug. I haven't plugged my
You haven't
Twitter.
plugged
Actually,
it
I hate
for a bit.
Twitter at the moment, so I'm not even going to. Don't go on Twitter. I'm going to boycott Twitter.
Okay.
So you cannot pay me £18 million anymore. And I digress. So they were opposite. It's a funny part of the world, isn't it? If you know East London, when the River Thames kind of meanders round the Millennium Dome, or the O2 as it's called now, and we were on a funny island called City Island or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it had an amazing view of the O2 and the city.
Do you know what? There's an amazing view of that on my Instagram.
Is there?
account. Yeah, chris.ship.royal. It's just a lovely picture. If you want to look at it, you know where to go. Or in fact, we might even put it up right now on my Instagram account, he says to the technical people and producers who do this podcast. Thank you very much. Right.
So now you've finished plugging your Instagram, I'll tell you why they were there.
What's on your Instagram this week?
Kate. Rugby. I haven't done today's yet.
Oh, okay.
But I will.
Yeah.
What's
your Instagram called?
At Lizzie Robinson ITV.
Okay.
They were at
Do you get paid £18 million?
somewhere called Trinity Buoy Wharf in East London, and they were at a Prince's Foundation training centre for arts and culture.
Now, he asks, the Prince's Foundation, isn't that the one that Michael Fawcett used to run?
Formerly.
Formerly?
Yes.
And has not yet been replaced as the chief executive.
No.
But the interim chief executive was there.
Yes.
The person who is standing in temporarily for Michael Fawcett, a story that we covered on this podcast previously. But the Prince's Foundation, as we said, despite the sort of controversial nature of some of the way in which they were fundraising, and it's currently being looked at by different charity commission organisations, it does do some very good work, doesn't it? I think on that most people will agree. And one of the things it does is keeping traditional skills, crafts, artists, keeping those skills alive in parts of the country where they might otherwise die out.
Yeah, and we saw them. They visited different rooms within the site, and they saw everything from sewing to there was life drawings, there was sculptures.
Geometric something or other, wasn't
Yep.
there? Just some geometry going on.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought they had quite a nice rapport between the three of them.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say they put it on for the cameras. I don't know whether you can for that long a period of time. It does seem like, I remember a point where Charles was going up to Kate/Catherine. I wonder what he called her.
Catherine, I
I didn't
imagine.
listen to her. And so, they were chatting about there was a guy, wasn't there, sat in a rather awkward position like this. Do you remember him?
I don't know how he sat there for
stood
so long without moving.
Was it like that, kind of?
Kind of.
And they were chatting in that room while people were drawing this guy, and they seemed to have a nice little connection, I thought.
Yeah, and then at the end of the visit, there was it was really sweet. They went over. There were all these school children at the local prep school next door.
Yeah.
They were all at the window waving at them, and Charles and Camilla and Kate went over, and they were chatting through the window at them, and got the traditional posies with flowers. But yes, no, it was a nice engagement.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, the Prince's Foundation does do good work in the field of the arts and traditional crafts, but also, as we've explained before, the good work it does at Dumfries House in southwest Scotland, where the place is based, where the Prince's Foundation is based. Now, we said that we would end today with crockery.
But we're not going to end just yet
Sorry.
because
Did I miss something?
you did.
Well, it's not on my list.
Well, it is.
Oh, yes, there is on my list, actually.
It is on your list. You wrote.
We're not going to end with. We are going to end with.
We are going to end with
We're not
crockery.
going to get to the crockery bit right in the moment. We're going to do something else beginning with C. In fact, two things.
Two things beginning with C.
Your notes are as good as mine.
Yes.
Chogham and Caribbean. Chogham. Do you know what Chogham stands for?
The Commonwealth
You do.
heads
Asking
of
the people out there. Do you know what Chogham stands for? No. So you say
the Chogham.
the Chogham.
The Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So basically, presidents and prime ministers from all the 54 voluntary nations of the Commonwealth all get together, and they're going to meet in
Rwanda in Kigali.
Right. And they were meant to meet there 2 years ago.
They were meant to meet 2 years ago. It's been postponed twice because of the pandemic, like so many things, and it has been rescheduled for June this year, still in Kigali in Rwanda as planned.
And of course, I suppose the important thing to point out is since the Commonwealth last met, there is one less realm because Barbados left,
Yeah.
but they're still in the Commonwealth,
Yeah.
which means they still get to go to Chogam.
Yeah.
So,
And the Queen is head of the Commonwealth, but she
ain't
hasn't
going.
travelled since 2015, since her final trip to Malta in 2015. So the Prince of Wales,
wasn't Malta a Chogam event?
it was, yeah. The Prince of Wales travels sort of on her behalf, but it was decided at the last Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which was in London, that he would be the next head of the Commonwealth when the time came.
The Queen kind of twisted everyone's arm to say, I, the Queen, would like you to vote for
My son.
my son, if you wouldn't mind, please.
And then they did.
And then they did.
Yes.
Yes. So
It is one of her proudest.
Yes. And also would have left. I think did we do a podcast when this happened? Maybe we didn't.
On what?
No, were we doing this podcast when that
Oh.
Chogam event happened in London? Question mark. Not sure.
Don't know.
Anyway, had we been doing the podcast at the time, we would have discussed that it would have been quite difficult for Prince Charles to when he becomes king, to therefore not be head of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
But then I think there are some countries in the Commonwealth who at the time were saying, well, it would be good to have a head of the Commonwealth who's not from London and is not white, and not from the royal family necessarily. So things might change, but they won't change yet.
No.
Because Prince Charles is going to be the next head. We expect him to go, and
We expect him
therefore
to go,
probably
and
do
then-
some other visits to other countries in that part of the world.
Yeah, you think that if he's going to be in that part of the world, that he might tag something on, although we don't know. We are purely speculating.
We are purely speculating, and we might as well speculate, therefore.
While we're
Caribbean.
speculating, let's speculate on other
While we're
things we might
speculating,
do.
William and Kate are going to the Caribbean. Well, we don't know going, possibly going, think we're going, tell why. Because there's a country in the Caribbean called Belize, which is, it's not an island, is it, Belize? I don't
No.
think. Even though it's in the Caribbean. It's kind of on that sort of strip between North America and South America that's mostly
borders
Mexico.
Guatemala.
Yes. So that's Belize, but it's a realm.
It is a realm.
So therefore, the Queen is the head of state.
Yeah, so in a Jubilee year, it is traditional for members of the royal family, as always, to
Go
travel, but they particularly focus on the Commonwealth and realms because while we're
Yes.
celebrating the Queen's 70 years on the throne, so are all of them.
Well, absolutely, because she is much the Queen of Canada and the Queen of Australia and the Queen of New Zealand and the Queen of Belize, as she is the Queen of England or United
Yes,
Kingdom.
so we were expecting them to get out this year, COVID permitting, and then
Did we get to the bit
a
about why we're saying Belize?
Sunday newspaper
Yes.
reported last weekend that some members of the Cambridge's team were spotted in Belize.
They might have been on holiday,
Well, all of them together.
vacation.
All of them
They
together.
might get on really well in the office.
Scoping out
Let's go to Belize.
and just scope out some places that we might do some engagements and
In theoretically in the future.
yeah, I mean, it sounds a pretty good bet, doesn't it? In fact,
So
yes.
hold on, if you're going to go to Belize, therefore you've got to choose some other realms in the area. I mean, there's
Well,
quite a
I
few in
would-
the Caribbean.
I mean,
Not Barbados. I don't think they're going to go.
they're not
to
going to
Barbados.
Barbados, but they might, for example, go to Jamaica because when we were in Barbados, we spoke a lot about how
true.
Jamaica had spoken about whether to follow suit and to become a republic like Barbados has. So
Other realms in that area are the Bahamas, Antigua, St Kitts and Nevis, and lots of others. So
but we're gonna
message to the Cambridges: you can make this tour as long as you want.
we will
You
go
can do every realm if you want in the Caribbean.
for months, and we will go.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Belize and others is a possibility for the Cambridges in the Jubilee year. That's as much as we can say.
That's as much as we can say.
Fine. Okay. So if anyone from the Team Cambridge is watching, as I'm sure they do every week, then Belize and other countries are very welcome.
Very welcome.
Very
we
welcome
will
indeed.
take that one.
And whilst we're speculating, we might as well
Okay.
speculate about Charles and Camilla. And
Okay.
the general speculation at the moment, and this is Canada, isn't it?
Well, I think we've said getting back to realms not only in a Jubilee year, but also there's been no travel for so long, so they haven't been able to take their traditional spring and autumn tours. And normally you would see visits to places like Canada, Australia, New Zealand happen, every few years, and we've had nothing. So
it's an election in Australia though this year, and they could elect a politician who doesn't want to be, have the Queen as head of state.
They could.
Maybe
not there.
Maybe it's a good year to avoid Australia.
Yeah, but Canada, for example, no member of the royal family has been for a couple of years now because of the pandemic. So
they often get Charles and Camilla. I mean, I don't think I've been to Canada a couple of times, both times with Charles and Camilla. Yeah. And actually, didn't William and Kate do a tour previous to that? But I've never been there with them. So
we weren't doing the job, I don't think. But we also went with Harry, didn't we, for his Invictus Games when he first introduced Meghan to the world.
So Harry once, Charles and Camilla twice maybe.
Yeah.
Those are the only 3 times I've ever been to Canada. Beautiful country as well, and I'd like to see a lot more of it. So, and I do like Canadians. I can't say I like every single Canadian, but every Canadian I've met has been very nice.
But I mean, I think the tours will have a focus on the Jubilee this year. So they're fairly, reasonable bets.
And of course, it's not a realm. If we're talking about travel, there is going to be an Earthshot, and they've announced that Earthshot is going to be
in America. Yeah.
So at some point, one would imagine that Prince William would have to go to America if he's going to stick with his Earthshot in the way that he has committed.
You would expect so. He is committed to this, and we've said before in this podcast.
Maybe there's a really good convention centre in Montecito in Santa Barbara. He could sort of
could pop in.
Well, actually, Harry and Meghan's house, from what I read, is actually quite big. Maybe they could
host it there. Yeah.
It's not a bad idea, is it?
But anyway.
Do you think it'll...
Re-steering. William has spoken about Earthshot being, for him, like his father's Prince's Trust, like his grandfather's Duke of Edinburgh Award. He is fully committed to this, so you would expect him to go.
Okay. And Earthshot, the first one was at Alexandra Palace in London, and a very good event it was too. Right, do you get to the final thing on my list, which started off as croc, which I couldn't read. It's now been written as crockery, and it's got the word lovely next to it. So,
lovely.
Shall we explain why we're talking about lovely crockery or lovely jubbly crockery?
This is so good. This is such a good story. So there is a spelling mistake on thousands of pieces of Platinum Jubilee souvenirs.
Which happened in a factory in China, I believe, yes?
In China, yeah. Cups, plates and things to mark the Queen's 70 years. And instead of the Platinum Jubilee, it's the Platinum Jubilee.
As in Jubbly, jubbly.
Yeah.
As in lovely jubbly.
Lovely jubbly.
Lovely jubbly.
Sort of a bit only fools and horses.
Lovely jubbly. Got the lovely Jubilee coming up this year.
But if you want to get your hands on this, and why wouldn't you?
You can buy it. Didn't they just put it all in the bin?
No, a clearance website boss has pitched them as collector's items.
He's obviously found that this is actually quite a good idea, and I could make a bit of money from it.
He said, they said there is a market for everything.
There is a market for everything.
Well, I reckon it will go, to be honest.
Is there a market for lovely jubbly? I suppose it could be a very unique piece.
I'm going to buy you a plate. The Platinum Jubilee.
How much are the plates? Do you know? Have you looked up the prices yet?
I was actually, as we came in here, I was about to, but I haven't.
Oh, okay.
But,
and what's the website called? Lovelyjubbly.com or something?
It's wholesale clearance.
Okay, there we go.
It deals in bankrupt stock, discontinued lines, and it said it would step in to sell the commemorative items, with the products advertised as souvenir stock with slight typo mistake.
It's like a sort of row of seconds.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Maybe they could put some chips, as in, some cracks and some chips in the cups to make it real seconds. So,
perfect.
There we go. Lovely jubbly. So it's the Jubilee year. We're about to hit the Jubilee. I think, should we go to Sandringham at the weekend?
Let's go to Sandringham at the weekend, shall we?
Let's go to Sandringham at the weekend.
Well, the Queen is there, so we should probably
drop in for some tea if she wants us.
We could take us some cups.
Mate, that's a brilliant idea. We could actually... Here you go, Your Majesty, lovely jubbly.
I think she'd find that amusing.
Yes, of course. So we will be in Sandringham. We could even do a podcast from Sandringham. Could we?
We could.
It's entirely possible, because if enough happens between now when we can't tell you about things and Sunday when we can tell you about things, we could even do a podcast from there, and then we wouldn't have to do one next week, because I'm planning to be off on Thursday next week. So this is all working out very well.
And then you've got some holidays, so you'll be away.
We could actually discuss our rosters here, and we could actually turn this into a chat about our days off.
Shall I put them out of their misery?
Time off in lieu. Discuss. Right. No, we're not going to put that on the list. Let's bid you farewell, and we will see you from Sandringham, and we will talk all things Succession and all things historic. Yes?
Yes.
Do that. See you then.